Hello everyone, I'm Wehbba and you're here in my studio in Barcelona. And I'm gonna show you a little bit of the process of writing my track Protocol that came out on Drumcode earlier this year. And it's still doing well on the charts on Beatport. If you like techno, I hope you probably heard it. And so I'm just gonna show you a little bit of the elements and a little bit of the story behind them. And I think it's just better if we go quickly through the drums, because there's not a lot of time to go in detail about everything. So let's just go for it. Starting with the kick drum. That was recorded on my analog rhythm synth I really like. It can do a lot of drum things, but it can also do some synth sounds really nicely. And I like to use it to make all my kick drums because it sounds really fat and juicy. And in this case, I also did the bass line together. So the kick drum and the bass line, they play together. First, I'm just gonna play a little bit of the track so you can hear what I'm talking about, and then I'm gonna solo the elements and talk about them separately. So that's Protocol. And so let's go on about the kick drum thing. And you can hear there's a kick and there's a bass together. So they're both playing at the same time. And I recorded them this way because I liked how they sound initially. But I had to tweak a little bit the levels because I recorded the bass too loud. And the kick wasn't punching through the mix, so I had to just lower the bass notes and just prioritize the transient of the kick drum so that it sounds a little bit punchier. Maybe that was a bit too much, but anyways, it sounds really good now and sounds really good in the club, and that's what really mattered to me for this track. And I also added a layer that just makes it really punchy now. And yeah, so that was the kick drum. The hi-hats, there's not a lot of them here in this track. Very simple drums section. And one of the hi-hats is a simple 909. I recorded it with the TR-8 going through the SP16 from Pioneer. Which I really like this combo because they complement each other really nicely. The filters that are on the SP16, you can drive the TR8 really nicely, and the TR8 takes that drive really nicely, which I really like. So it just sounds really punchy and thick, and so you don't need to add a lot of things on top of it. It's just you can drive the track on its own. The shaker, pretty much the same thing. Very simple on the off, and that's probably from the 7x7 expansion on TR8, also with the distortion, and yeah, that's the same all the way through the track, except where it's not playing. But yeah, and then there's this really high hi-hat that I made with this the cymbal from the time and timbre from Skinner Box, which is a Max for Live patch, and I used it all the time to give life to the drums, because sometimes the drums that are just not bright enough, or just sound too muffled, or just sound too analog, and I just wanted to bring some life into them and some brightness, some more like, without bringing it up with the EQ, because sometimes it just doesn't sound too good. So I'd rather get the sounds really right before starting to process them too much. This way I can get the track sounding nicely right away, and I don't have to spend so much time trying to fix stuff later. And I think lastly here, there's a simple 16th note shaker that I use the panner. I like to pan stuff a lot on my tracks, and this panner makes it really easy, because now you can hear it in both speakers, like separately, each hit, and that gives it a nice groove as well, that it doesn't exist without the panner. And then there's a clap. I think that was done with the analog rhythm. I record that as audio, and then I do like a long take where I modulate it a little bit. And then I use different parts of the clap when I edit them on the arrangement. And you can hear the delays and stuff coming from the sands. That's always a good idea. Makes your life a lot easier. And yeah, they are responsible for those kind of build-ups that happen through the track. And the ride cymbal, very futuristic stuff. It's just a 909 simple ride cymbal is not futuristic at all. But it works, you know. I love the sound and I always use it, and I'm not bored of it yet, so I'm not gonna stop using it until I am. And the same as with the claps and a few of the other drum parts, I record it in audio. That was done with the TR-8 as well. And then I just do some different parts and I add it on the arrangement. As you can see here, there's a different part than here. Oops. And here it's just a straight part, and then there's a swinging part, and that's it for the ride. And then there's the conga, which is you can hear it all the way through the track. It sounds different in different parts. And I've used a lot of plugins on it. I use compressors, like this is transformers and delays and lots of things. Because initially that was the sound. Very simple conga sound, very dry and very rough. I recorded it with the SP16 and sequenced it with that. Also did a long session where I did some rolls and sweeps and stuff like that. So just have options, you know, when I use that on the arrangements. But in the end, I always kind of tend to use the simple stuff because they work better when you have a lot of other stuff going on. And so yeah, that was the drums. And yeah, okay. So before we go, let's just listen to the drums separately. That's a really straight but still funky rhythm, and just drives the whole track. And then there's this really cool sound that is very distinguishable, and you can hear it on the track very, very well because it's in quieter parts. And that was initially just a white noise kind of snare. But I've added a reverb and a filter to give it like notes. So because of the reverb, it has more sustain. And then I used the filter, I automated it to add kind of like notes to this sound. And that makes, you know, it's just a weird thing to think about, but when you add it to the track after it's done, it just makes a big difference. And it takes the track to the next level because it's not an average thing, you know. It's it's stupid, but it makes a huge difference when you add stuff like this to the track, you know. So I loved it and I kept it for sure. And then let's move on to the musical parts of the track. The first one being the main sound, which I've recorded with this little baby here, the Prophet 6 from Dave Smith, one of my favorite synths. Really fat, really juicy. This is the original sound coming from the synth. You can hear when I open the filter there. So it sounds really good already without any processing. I just had to EQ it a little bit to not to be too muddy or anything, and then yeah, a little bit of saturation on top of what already is a saturated sound, and it sounds really fat and juicy, and that's what I like. So that was the main theme of the track. And that was also the original idea behind it. That's the first sound that I came up with for the track. All the rest was built around this this sound. And the kick drum and the bass, the straight bass. The other part that's really juicy and fat is this Moog sound that comes from the Sub 37 here. It's not exactly the same sound because I changed it. I don't save presets, stupid as it is. I like to tweak every track and start from zero, and it's just the way I do stuff. And so yeah, it's just a simple sawtooth wave with the filter opening and closing. Did a few options, recorded different takes, and then there's the melodies. This one, which comes from a really old synth. You don't see it in the video, but it's up there. It's the Oberheim Matrix 6. It doesn't sound at all like that originally. This is the sound. So I added filters and delays and reverbs to make it sound like this. I don't know why I did that exactly, but sometimes that's just how I end up doing things in the studio when I'm in the zone, and it just really worked, and that was the perfect choice for the track. And then I duplicated that melody with the Prophet 6 and made this nice melodic pad that I also processed a lot with some filters. And then you can barely hear it, but it does make a difference on the track. Just gives it a nice ambience, and I really like that. It's really lush. Also, there's this other crazy ambient sound from Virus. The Virus is my first synthesizer and one of my favorites, and I'm gonna die with it. That's gonna go with me to my grave. I love that thing, and it's just you can do anything with it, and it does everything really well. So I looped a small section of what I recorded with it, and that's just doing a sweep. The initial recording was actually very spaced out, kind of, I don't even know what that is. There you go. But in the end, I turned it into a loop, and that makes a sweep that leads into just adds intensity to the track before it drops to whatever it is that it's dropping. And then there's this channel, just some crazy glitches I've made with Reactor. I love Reactor for anything. I use it constantly. It's one of my favorite things in the studio. And I've just recorded a lot of different takes. Actually, it's just a long take, like really long take, as you can see here. Anyways. So this is a really long take, and I've chose different bits for different sections of the track. Also just a very tiny, small production detail, but it all adds up to making it a special track. And I like these little trippy things, It's just, I love it. And then there's another Virus channel. This I actually sampled the Virus inside a computer, loaded it into a sampler, because I wanted to give a different texture when the notes change. Weird as it is. Because on sounds like this, when you play a lower note, you can hear the modulation differently, so that it just sounds very different from if you played it directly from the synth. So that was the Virus again, doing this rave thing. It does so well. And there's another effects channel, and boom. That's protocol. So I hope I wasn't too long. I hope this was a nice insight into my production process and a little bit my studio. And that's about it. And I see you guys next time. Ciao.